Welcome to the Tipsy Guest Podcast. I am your host, Marco Buenrostro, and every week I'm here with the top industry experts, amazing clients, and all my vendor BFFs to bring you the best tips, advice, and juicy behind-the-scenes stories to make wedding and event planning a breeze. So grab your favorite drink and let's get this party started! Hey guys, welcome back to the Tipsy Guest. I am Marco, your host, and today, oh my gosh, I am so honored to have the most experienced DJ I know. I mean, we'll talk about it for how long in a little bit, but oh my gosh, Chris Koval from Future Sounds. Hello, hello.
Great to be with you this afternoon.
How are you, sir?
Yeah, I'm feeling well. It's you're getting ready for a big. I think 2025 is really going to be an exciting year for our industry. So I'm looking forward to what it brings us. It was a great 2024, and I think according to industry experts, they say, of course, before COVID, they thought 2020 was going to be an amazing year. So I think now that we're into this new year, I think all the experts say this year is going to be what 2020 should have been. So it should be exciting for all of us. I think we'll see a nice uphill climb for us, and it'll be rewarding at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, it is so crazy, at least, so for our listeners out there, time of recording right now, it is mid-January 2025. Mm-hmm. And I mean, the holidays were insane. I keep saying it, but I mean, there were so many events. Mm-hmm. I was going crazy.
yes. I can't remember. Just someone asked me just yesterday. They go, well, what'd you do? What was your weekend like? I'm like, well, let's see. I had an event yesterday. That was Tuesday. Event on Monday. I said I don't really remember the weekend, and nor can I really remember December or the last quarter of last year because it was just.
I mean, it's a blessing for sure, but oh my goodness. So I think from November 30th all the way to December 20th, we had straight events for 20 days straight. It didn't matter if it was a Monday, a Tuesday, whatever day of the week. We were doing holiday parties. We had a lot of weddings in December. It was such a good month. And I was like, you know what? I'm looking forward to January and take a little break. No. It has been really busy, thankfully. So, but I'm very excited to have you here today. I've known you for I think maybe 9 years now. I've been in the business for about 10 years, so I think I've known you for about 9.
Yes, I would say so. That's about right.
And every single time I have a conversation with you, I just feel like I am talking to an entire generation of just amazingness.
That generation that makes me feel really old. Thank you, Mark.
Well, not that I'm giving your age away, but 40 years behind the microphone and nearly 30 years of entertainment as Future Sounds.
Yes.
Talk to me about that.
Well, I started my career, and the 40 years wraps up the entirety of when I started working behind the microphone. So as a young teenager, I was working at baseball fields, announcing the players as they come up to bat. So that slowly transitioned into me working at skating rinks and radio and television, doing all those things back in the early 80s and 90s is when essentially I began all that. So I was just laughing this morning as I was preparing for this. I was like, well, maybe I should send you some of my earlier radio air checks, which if you listen to that, you kind of hear my voice. It's not necessarily what it sounds like right now. But not so good. You're like, that's terrible. And compared to my later years, I worked in radio for about 10 years. So I started that in the late 80s and then worked through about the mid 90s or so with radio. KJ97 here in San Antonio is one of my latest, the last stations I worked with. But during that time, 93 is when I started working in the mobile industry. Cutting Edge Entertainment, Ron Peen. Actually, he and I used to be co-DJs there with one of the original owners.
Wow.
So all that stuff, they were looking for mobile DJs. And at the time when I was in radio, I'm like, well, that's not really what I was thinking about doing, but okay, I'll help out. And needless to say, years later, 1998 is when I began Future Sounds. And did I ever think I'd be here 25, almost 30 years later? No, I didn't think that. And nor did I think in 93 I'd start a business and be doing this mobile stuff for weddings and parties. Although I loved what I did as a radio personality, and doing what I do now, it gives me that interaction. Just like here today, it's like if you say something that's funny, you may get a laugh, but it's that complete interaction that you have. And when you're in a room filled with people and you see the fun that you have, it's very it's mesmerizing in a way, because you're like, wow, look at that. It's like I used to tell people years ago, it's kind of a neat feeling when you say jump and they do. That's just the neatest feeling. And especially if you have 10 people or 10,000 people,
yeah,
it's quite a humbling experience to go through that and realize the power you have. As much as you can earn that at some event, you could quickly lose it. And when I worked in some of the clubs, it was that. It's like I could quickly mess this up. Everybody's having a great time, but if I say the wrong thing or play the wrong thing or do the wrong thing, it takes a little time to get that back. So, so nearly 40 years behind the microphone and with the entertainment. I mean, I was actually, I'll tell you this. Back in 1975, I used to do, my sisters were in dance, and so I reluctantly went to their performances, and they're like, "Oh, we need some young men to be in with the ladies dancing," and I'm like, "Oh, this is just what I need." But I learned. I joined that San Antonio Parks and Recreation, so I did tap jazz, ballet, gymnastics, clogging, all those things. So I can do a.
Is there any footage of this anywhere?
Luckily, no. See, back then they didn't have cameras.
Oh my goodness.
And when they used the term YouTube, it was more like "you boob" is I think what they said. No, just kidding. So there might be some. I think posted on my website or maybe in Facebook. There's some early photos of me holding a little plastic guitar. I used to do pantomimes. As a matter of fact, KKYX still around right now, but they used to do shows kind of like Your Side of Town entertainment, when they bring in people from different sections of town for the city of San Antonio to show, hey, here's our, just like Star Search or American Idol. Well, San Antonio does that, but back then some of the radio stations would request their guests to, hey, come out, we're having this thing. So at one of the early Poteet Strawberry Festivals back in 1975, 76, I dressed up and did this pantomime to a song by Charlie Rich, The Most Beautiful Girl, and it was on a 45 record, and I sped it up to 78, so it was really fast, so I sang like a chipmunk pantomime to this thing. So needless to say, so I've been entertaining for quite a long time, class clown in my my grade school and high school.
I can see that. I can definitely see that.
So all that and more has kind of led to where I am today, and so very respondent to people around me, and I love working off the energy in a room. So whether it's with people or without people, radio, a lot of times I was in a small room like this, and so you didn't see outside. I didn't know if it was cloudy or sunshine or rain or snow. You just kind of get a report, and you're looking at computers and monitors, and you're kind of going off a feel for what you're seeing and reading.
Yeah.
Versus saying, hey, look, it's sunshine and 86 outside right now. But it's always interesting to go across something. So there's kind of a nutshell of the last many years of my life and how it kind of began. And Future Sounds was just one of those things. I was working with another company, a good friend of mine. His company was called Ultimate Entertainment. And we parted ways, and a lot of friends in the industry back in the 90s said, you should start your own business. And I was like, well, okay. I said, I guess I can do that. And so I did. It's always a scary thing to start a business. So I did, and then I ended up meeting people, and I had at one point in the mid 2000s, I had 8 people working for me.
Wow.
And we were doing really well, so it was a neat thing, and all that was good, but they got real jobs and moved on. But needless to say, it was a great experience of expanding and taking all on, but also scary. And after some of those guys moved on, I thought about expanding again, but I said, I should stay where I'm at. And at the time, I was also working at UTSA. I worked there for about 15 years as a communications coordinator for the Office of Information Technology. So that's where I kind of get the academic side of me, working with teachers and teaching them how to use technology. But then moved from there, or left there in 2013. Actually, they fired me. Marco, someone hated me.
Oh, no.
And, needless to say, I lost my job at UTSA, and Julie and I met in 2013. And we were just getting ready to buy a house, and I said, stop everything. And she's like, what? I said, I just lost my job today.
Oh, no.
What? I said, yes. So let's take a step back here. And after a few months, she had just moved in with me, and we were looking to buy a house. And then she says, well, maybe you just focus on your business because that's going well.
Yeah.
And needless to say, that's what I did. And that's when I got involved in all the associations, ILEA. I'd been a part of ILEA since 2006, but in 2013 is when I made the commitment to say, they say that if you give to the organization, eventually you get back from that. So I put that to the test, joined ILEA, joined AHAA, joined NACE, and actually became more of an active member versus just a passive member where I was like, occasionally I'll go and say hello. And it's been very rewarding. I can't say it hasn't because I've expanded that reach of a connection, not just people in the industry, but beyond that. So there you go. That was a lot of information.
I am amazed with all this information, and I can kind of
relate. To sweat.
I can kind of relate with you on the whole radio station. I used to work at a radio station years and years and years ago. And yeah, like you said, it's a small room like this, and then you're just pretty much, talking to the world, but you're in a little room, and this was, I think, I worked at a radio station, I think it was 2004 back in the Valley, and then 2007 here in San Antonio, 104.1, which now is a norteño station. Back in the day when I was working there, it was a Spanish pop station.
Okay.
And I absolutely loved doing radio. It was so fun. It was, all the people we met, all the concerts, just, answering the phone calls and talking to people. I wish radio would go back to what it used to be. I don't think a lot of people listen to the radio nowadays, but I miss those days. It was such a fun experience. I remember back in high school, back in middle school, I would go to sleep listening to the radio, and you would have your favorite shows in the radio. Like, it was just so much fun. I miss those days.
It's at one of the radio stations I worked at, Kono here in town, and they were a free format. So we had, and this you might know, not all radio stations I just play whatever. It could be country radio station, oldies radio station, pop radio station, CHR. But it's like you have a list of music you're playing. This is the order you're playing it in, and you just pull them, play them. Now it's easier with computers. You're just probably even more automated. But Kono allowed us to say, well, here's kind of the suggestions to play, kind of stick to this, but yet you can play anything. So they made it really easy to interact with the audience.
Yeah.
And it was... and I have some crazy things. That was the probably most engaging radio station I worked with because it allowed us to really enjoy that free format and have fun with the guests. So if we'd do live calls and all these things. And even though most of them were still recorded as we were engaging, one of my mentors in radio, Dave Rios, he was like, Chris, he goes, you make it sound so good, it's so fun, because I would just love talking to people, and I would transition that after taking a few minutes to edit whatever we did. And back then, unlike now where you have the digitally kind of highlight and you can delete, we had the old reel-to-reel machines where you'd be sitting there cutting with the razor, and it's like, oh wait, play another song, I need another 3 minutes to get this done. But I had a lot of great mentors back then, and people that I loved listening to, and that's what helped me really kind of fine-tune the personality that I had as a radio person, and I guess the inflection was always important too, the way that you speak and things that you should say or not say. Which is always an interesting thing in radio when you're like, well, there could be one person listening, or there could be 100,000. Doesn't really matter, but if I don't say things correctly, if I can't really share information well, then it's a loss for all of us, and it's not going to be very funny.
Yeah, and I feel like right now that, I guess, it brings me to my next question, which is, you like the interaction with people, you love, of course, entertaining. You've been doing weddings for such a long time. What do you think, I guess, of the transition throughout the years? How have the weddings changed in a way, when it comes to you as the entertainment of the weddings?
I think the thing that's changed the most is that years ago, so when I started doing the weddings back in the 90s, and I would go to Floresville, or, it could be here in San Antonio, but everybody that came to that event knew each other. It was your parents, grandparents, it was your neighbors. Everybody had something in common, more than just the bride and groom. And so the commonality that was in that event was very homey in a way. You felt very comfortable. And the music styles that were played, everybody knew. Whereas today, the commonality might just be the bride and groom.
Yeah.
And you know the bride or you know the groom. You may know them both. You may know them through work or through school. But otherwise, that level of extension of saying, "Oh, I've known Johnny since he was 12 or since he was 5," that's not as a common of an occurrence that you see these days. So that's the big thing. So when you go to a wedding, the music styles that you may play, it's like you have, just like you were saying, it's like I've been to weddings where my bride was from Puerto Rico and my groom was from Mexico City, and friends and family were from around the globe. I did a wedding probably early 2000s. The dad was a diamond trader, and there were 32 countries represented. There were 13 languages spoken during the toast.
Wow.
Heads of state. I mean, it was an insane type of thing to be a part of. And I was like, I'm the smallest person here around all these people. And it's like I was probably nothing back then when they were paying for things, because they spent. It was at the St. Anthony, and they brought in their own tables. The only thing they used was the flatware. Everything else was brought in. But I think the fascinating thing about that was the number of countries and people and dialects and all these things that were represented, and the commonality was the parents and the family and the couple. But that's changed even more because it's more diverse. And that's both good and bad, because it makes it more difficult if you say, hey, I'm going to be playing this type of music. Well, someone may like it or they may not. Maybe you have a handful of people that may like it. So are you going to get a full dance floor? Well, maybe. It depends on that crowd and how much, they are really into that or not. If just like yesterday, I was playing a lot of Bollywood. They were saying, hey, play this. And I'm like, okay. So we were just playing George Strait, and then I went right into Bollywood music.
Yeah.
And so it's like, well, fine, but that's the way some of these weddings are, is that you're trying to please everyone, and it's difficult to do that. It's always nice to kind of have a heads up if you have people. Even I always joke about when you look at people that are from Corpus, or they're south of Corpus, they're in far or further into the valley. Selena works for some, but if you're further south of Corpus, it's like, no, cumbia is, yeah, Selena's good, but we want other stuff.
Yeah.
So it's knowing that and being aware that where people are coming from, that slight difference going across the border from Laredo to Monterey or wherever, that's different music. It's not the same.
Yeah, it's a complete different story.
Yeah, and if you're not prepared for that or aware of that, or not knowing that there's that difference, just play us some Latin music. Okay, hold on.
That's a wide range.
Yeah, that's a big genre of music. If you're from Puerto Rico or Cuba or Mexico or South America, or you're from Brazil, it all changes. And I think just as much as you can appreciate that, American music now, or world music, is no different. There's so many different variations. And now with the access to that makes a big difference. So people, they just expect you to have it all. And it's like, well, you're just pulling that up on your phone, and that's great. But, I guess I can play it off my phone and I can stream that. All the music I have here. I don't have to worry about being connected to the world to get that. So I think that's another big difference, is not only are the people more diverse and eclectic in what they listen to, but also the access to music, where years ago, radio, we shaped what people listen to. This is what we want. This was released by MCA or RCA or Sony or whomever. That company released it because they sponsored that artist. But now people say, I can go on YouTube, or I can go search anywhere, stream stuff on any music streaming service, and I can find the music that I really like, which is great for artists and great for the consumption of that. But then going to our events, now it's like, oh, well, where am I at on this spectrum of playing music? And so it's neat to learn. We're all into learning new stuff, but it's difficult to know it all and have it all.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so, for example, you guys asked the DJ for the weddings or events. You guys are playing for a long time. It could be 3, 4, 5 hours, depending on the timeline of the wedding. What I've noticed, when it comes to a DJ versus a band at a wedding or an event is nothing, of course, no shade against the bands, but I mean the bands take breaks. They might do a set. I don't know really how many songs they do, but then they take a break and then they come back and then they take another break and then another break. So I mean, I feel like couples out there are spending a lot of money to hire a band, in comparison to how much a DJ charges. I mean, I'm sure there's different tiers of let's say, your packages, for example. Right. But I guess educate me on this. I'm assuming a DJ is still less than a band, right?
Yeah, I think it depends on the performance value. You have those that are on the higher end of the industry, they put on a performance. And I think whether it's, we all start somewhere, but then you have those of us who have worked hard to not only have the best gear, all those things play a factor, light shows, and then the presentation that we present to our clients, to our guests, to the guests that are there. And so I think that elevation of performance, and that was one thing many years ago someone asked me. I said, technically we're all doing a live performance. Yeah, I may be pushing a button or adjusting some type of thing on a mixer, but we are all, I'm plucking strings, pulling this, pushing that. We're all doing those types of things. So most DJs, I mean, if you look at the traditional style, you're playing about 17 songs an hour. When you start saying, okay, now we're beat mixing those or remixing those, okay, we're playing instead of 3 minutes or 4 minutes or 5 minutes of a traditional song, now we're playing maybe a minute and a half or 2 minutes of that, so you can get more songs in per hour, but it's nonstop. And that's the ultimate goal, is it's a nonstop mix of music. There are some bands out there that are using some new technologies that allow them to do that, but generally more traditional when they play their sets of music, where they may play a particular song and sing that song out and maybe add their own flair to that song and may extend it if it's a very popular, very familiar song for the type of music they play, and especially if that's what the guests are into, then it works. But then you look at them, maybe they're playing, instead of that 17th song an hour, they may be less than that because they don't necessarily make a nonstop rhythm that takes them through that whole period. So you may be looking at maybe 10 to 12 songs an hour, because if they stop in between every song. Yeah. Again, there are some bands that play more traditional. They play their song, pause, play the next song. There are a few that may play maybe a set of songs that may be all essentially mixed in together as they play it, and others that may be doing longer sets. So there are the variation out there between the larger bands that are more into trying to keep that energy. But I think that's one of the big things between bands and DJs, is most DJs are going to try and keep that energy going. And weddings are difficult because you have the formalities that occur. So I think as long as even bands, they try and work around those formalities, like we're going to do our set, then you break. But I think years ago when people would ask me the difference between bands and DJs, I was like, well, the difference is really 20 to 40 songs in the grand, and if you 4-hour event, 5-hour event, once you start adding those hours, that number changes a bit. But still, you say, okay, DJ, I'm going to play nonstop. You hire me for 4 hours or 5 hours. It's nonstop. I think I heard in one of the other things, like, do you go to the bathroom? Well, just like in radio, if I had to go to the bathroom, music can't stop. Although on a rare occasion I did, because I didn't do the right thing, but topic for another day. But it's like, okay, I'm gonna do that. But with a band, if someone leaves the stage, especially a critical musician, okay, well, we'll do that during the break. So you need that. So that's one of the big differences between a band and DJ, is the amount of music that could be essentially played in an hour or in an extended amount of time. Also, the footprint that we take. I mean, there's some DJs I know that we have big setups once we start bringing in trussing and lighting and larger sound systems. But that's the other thing. Footprint is a big difference between most DJs and a band. I mean, we can fit into a small corner, but yet we could take up a large stage if the need is there.
Yeah, I mean, that's a big difference. I honestly, so I guess to our listeners out there, I think, biggest takeaway right now is you hire a band for 4 hours, you hire a DJ for 4 hours. the DJ is going to play more.
And there's nothing better than a live performance. I mean, seeing someone that knows their trade, that can sing well or play an instrument well. My parents are musicians. I was not gifted with that. I can fake it really well. Maybe I can just fake it, maybe not really well. But again, I think we're all talented in certain ways, and I love seeing live music. But again, when you're looking at those formalities, the big differences between there, it's like if that's what I want, and I guess the other critical thing or crucial thing that is the big difference is if you hire a band that plays country music or Spanish music, or maybe they're a variety band, but yet they don't necessarily play. If you don't know your audience coming in that evening, like, yeah, they're all my friends. Well, but what is it that they listen to? What are their favorite songs? And if they don't like the band and they're not necessarily going to dance to what the band's playing, they can't change who they are. This is the set, the amount of music we know that we can play. DJ within, you want to go, you need Bollywood music? Here we go. I have some. You need Cajun music or whatever it is, let's go, and I think that's easier for us to do on our end than it would be for a traditional band.
Yeah, I love that. All right, Chris. Well, we are running out of time. Thank you so much.
Did I talk that much already?
Yes. I actually love this episode because it was like you were interviewing me. Like I was just listening here. I
think someone needs to do a travel one with you and ask me about all your travel experiences.
I think we should do an episode where you interview me. I think you should be the host. I'm gonna invite you back, and you're gonna be the host, and it's gonna be an episode about photo booths. But you're gonna be interviewing me. This is your open invitation. But hey, I want you to let our listeners know, where can they go find you? Social media, website, maybe a phone number. How can they reach out to you?
Well, one of the main places you can find the most information about Future Sounds and Chris Koval, if you go to our website, future-sounds.com. Great place to start. I keep that the most updated. You can find me on social media at Future Sounds DJ. On any of the social media channels. I'm not on TikTok. I'm much older, so I haven't gotten the TikTok thing yet. But a great, if what I get really excited about is when my stuff posted on the website. My Pinterest boards match my pricing sheet, so you can easily go there. So you can say, well, I see all this gibberish on this price sheet. I have no clue what that is, but it matches on the Pinterest site. So you can see pictures of my packaging, so you know exactly what's there. So yeah, at Future Sounds DJ. For the DJ service on social media, and future-sounds.com, the main web address.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. Again, we'll have you open invitation to have you again, because I know you do have other services that you offer.
Yes.
And we'll definitely be talking about that on a different episode. But to our listeners out there, thank you so much for tuning in today. I will catch you guys next week. Cheers. Thanks for listening to the Tipsy Guest Podcast. If you know someone who could benefit from these tips, spread the love and share it with them. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. Next round's on us. Same time, same place. Cheers! This podcast is brought to you by MVP Photo Booth, the #1 photo booth rental company in San Antonio, Austin, and Central Texas.